The blue-white marble of Earth hung in the viewport as John Miller adjusted his formal uniform one last time. After 20 years in diplomatic service, he had never imagined his career would lead to this moment, becoming humanity's first representative to the Galactic Council. Final approach to orbital departure, Ambassador, said Captain Alan Ross from the bridge comm. We launch in 15 minutes. Miller nodded, though no one could see him in his private quarters. The weight of 7 billion lives rested on his shoulders. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 8 years ago, and the alien message that followed changed everything humans thought they knew about the universe. We are not alone. And we are very, very late to the party. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Lysa Wright, his chief of security, stood at attention when he opened it. Sir, the team is assembled in the main hold. Final checks complete. Miller liked Wright. The former Marine carried herself with quiet confidence, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. At 42, she was 10 years his junior, but had an impressive service record. Thank you, Commander. Is Peter ready? Johnson is waiting with the others, sir. He's reviewing alien customs one last time. Miller smiled. Peter Johnson was the youngest member of the diplomatic team at only 34, but his gift for languages and cultural analysis made him invaluable. Within months of first contact, he had created a working translation matrix for the Council's common language. The EA's Horizon was humanity's newest vessel, built specifically for this mission. As Miller and Wright walked through its gleaming corridors toward the main hold, crew members stopped to salute. Everyone understood the stakes. Ambassador, Peter greeted him, tablet in hand. I've updated our briefing with new information from the Artaxi transmissions. Anything concerning? Miller asked. Peter shook his head. Just more protocol details. The Artaxi seemed the most welcoming of the Council races. The Vaxiri transmissions remain minimal. Miller had studied the 7 major Council species extensively. The Artaxi, with their crystalline skin and 4 arms, were traders and diplomats. The Vaxiri, reptilian and ancient, held the most military power and seemed the most reserved about human contact. All hands, secure for departure, Captain Ross announced over the ship-wide comm. The diplomatic team strapped into their acceleration couches. Besides Miller, Wright, and Johnson, there were 4 other specialists, a xenobiologist, a trade negotiator, a military liaison, and a legal expert. 7 humans to represent all of Earth. The Horizon's engines hummed to life, pushing them away from Earth orbit toward the jump point beyond Mars. Once there, they would activate the Shaw Drive and travel nearly 20 light-years to Sententrum Station, the massive headquarters of the Galactic Council. Shaw Drive charging, announced the ship's eye. Jump in 10 seconds. Miller looked at his team, feeling a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. Whatever happens, he said, remember we represent the best of humanity. The stars outside the viewport stretched and blurred as the Horizon jumped to faster-than-light speed. 5 days later, they arrived at Sententrum Station. From orbit, it looked like a metal sun, its massive structure glinting against the backdrop of a crimson nebula. Hundreds of alien vessels moved in careful patterns around it. Ambassador, Wright said quietly, pointing to a data screen. We're being scanned extensively. Expected but thorough, Johnson added, studying the readings. More intensive than their protocol suggested. Miller nodded, watching as a small vessel approached to guide them to their docking bay. First impressions matter, especially when you're the new kid in school. As the Horizon was guided toward a docking port, Miller couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Council communication had been polite, but minimal during their journey. Something felt off. Sir, Wright said suddenly, I'm detecting weapons locks from multiple vessels. Miller frowned. Defensive posture only, Commander. We're guests until proven otherwise. The Horizon docked with a gentle shudder. Through the airlock windows, Miller could see the welcoming party, 4 different alien species waiting in formal arrangement. Showtime, he said to his team as the airlock began to cycle. "Let's make Earth proud." The door opened to the alien air of Sententrum Station, and humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the stars truly began. The air in Sententrum Station felt thicker than Earth's, with a slight sweetness that made Miller's nose tingle. He stepped forward as the tallest alien approached. The creature had 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer like polished crystal in the station's light. "Ambassador Miller of Earth, I am Zerthal of the Artaxi," the alien said through a translator device. "We welcome humanity's first delegation to Sententrum." Miller gave the greeting gesture Peter had taught him, a slight bow with open palms. "The people of Earth thank you for this honor." Zerthal's upper arms moved in what might have been approval. "Come. The Council awaits your introduction." As they walked through the massive corridors of the station, Miller noticed the curious stares from aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, while others defied easy description. Lisa Wright kept close, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Ambassador," Peter whispered, "the delegation to our left is Vaxiri. Notice their posture." Miller glanced casually. 3 tall, reptilian beings watched them with unblinking yellow eyes. Unlike the other aliens they had passed, the Vaxiri made no gestures of welcome. "They hold the most council seats," Peter continued quietly. "Very traditional, very powerful." Zerthal led them to an enormous chamber with a circular platform in the center. Tiered seating rows around it, filled with representatives from dozens of species. The chamber hummed with the quiet sound of hundreds of translator devices working at once. "You will observe today," Zerthal explained. "Tomorrow, you will present Earth's petition for associate status." Miller nodded, feeling the eyes of the council on him as his team was led to observer seats. For the next 3 hours, they watched the council in action, debating trade agreements, border disputes, and technology sharing between worlds Miller had never heard of. "They're divided into factions," Peter noted, taking notes on his tablet. "See how the Vaxiri representatives vote as a bloc. But the Artaxi and those blue amphibian beings often oppose them." "What are they discussing now?" Miller asked as a heated debate broke out. Peter listened carefully to his translator. "Something about a resource-rich system near Sector 17. That's..." His eyes widened. "Sir, that's only 12 light-years from our solar system." Before Miller could respond, a Vaxiri representative stood and pointed directly at the human delegation. The translator picked up the end of his statement. "And now these humans seek access to the very region we have been developing for centuries." The chamber went quiet. Miller felt every alien eye turn to him. Zerthal quickly stood. "The humans are observers today only. This matter will be addressed in proper order." The session ended soon after. As they were escorted to their quarters, Lisa drew close to Miller. "Sir, we're being followed, not just by our official escort." Miller nodded slightly. "Expected. We're the new kids." Their quarters were luxurious, but Miller noticed the lack of communication devices. "They've isolated us," he said once they were alone. "Peter, what do we know about this disputed region near Earth?" "Very little," Peter admitted. "It wasn't in any briefing materials they provided." "Find out more." "Lisa, sweep for surveillance." Lisa already had a scanner out. "Already on it, sir." And, "Yes, we're being watched. Multiple devices." Miller wasn't surprised. "Leave the obvious ones. Find and disable any they try to hide." That night, while Peter and Lisa slept, Miller stood by the viewport looking out at the stunning array of alien ships. In 12 hours, he would stand before the council and make humanity's case. Something told him it would not be as simple as they had hoped. A soft chime announced a visitor. Miller opened the door to find Zerthal. "Ambassador, may we speak privately?" the Artaxi asked, glancing down the corridor. "Of course." Zerthal entered quickly. "You should know," the alien said in a low voice. "Not all council members welcome your arrival. The Vaxiri especially see humans as problematic." "Why?" Miller asked. Your development rate concerns them. Most species take millennia to advance from primitive flight to faster-than-light travel. Humans did it in just over a century. Zirithal's crystalline skin dimmed slightly. Be careful tomorrow, Ambassador. Some would use your words against all humanity. After Zirithal left, Miller woke Lisa and Peter. We need a new strategy, he said. I think we're walking into a trap. Morning came too quickly on Sententrum Station. Miller had barely slept after Zirithal's warning. He stood before a mirror, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform with the Earth Alliance emblem gleaming on his chest. Our options are limited, Lisa said, checking her sidearm. The council had allowed her to keep it as a ceremonial courtesy. If we delay our presentation, we look weak. Peter looked up from his tablet. I found something about that star system they were arguing over. It contains rare minerals used in faster-than-light drives. If humans gained access, we could build ships at a fraction of current costs. Miller nodded. So the Vaxuri don't just fear us as newcomers. They fear us as competition. A chime announced their escort had arrived. 4 Artaxi guards waited to bring them to the council chamber. Miller noticed they seemed tense, their crystalline skin pulsing with darker colors than yesterday. The main chamber was packed with representatives from all council species. The central platform where Miller would speak was bathed in bright light. It reminded him uncomfortably of an interrogation room. Remember, Miller told his team as they approached, whatever happens, stay calm. Earth is watching. Actually, Earth wasn't watching. The distance made real-time transmission impossible. Any recordings would take days to reach home. Miller felt the weight of this isolation as he stepped onto the speaking platform alone. The lead counselor, a Vaxuri named Draxar, raised his scaled hand for silence. Ambassador John Miller of Earth, you may present your petition for Council Associate status. Miller began his carefully prepared speech. He spoke of humanity's hope for peaceful cooperation, technological exchange, and mutual growth. He highlighted Earth's cultural diversity as a strength and pledged respect for council laws and traditions. Some council members nodded in seeming approval. Others, particularly the Vaxuri bloc, remained stone-faced. In conclusion, Miller said, humanity does not come to take, but to share. We do not seek to disrupt, but to learn. Earth extends its hand in friendship to all peaceful species of the galaxy. A moment of silence followed. Then Draxar stood. Pretty words, Ambassador, but words can hide truth. The Vaxuri's voice was cold through the translator. Would you still speak of peace if we showed the council what your people truly plan? Miller frowned. I don't understand. Draxar made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed what appeared to be Earth military documents detailing plans for expansion into nearby star systems, including the disputed region. These were found in your ship's secure database, Draxar announced. Plans for military bases in systems already claimed by council races. Miller stared in shock. These are forgeries. Earth has no such plans. From the observer section, Lisa stood up. Ambassador, those documents were planted. The file dates are wrong. Silence. Draxar commanded. Guards, secure the human delegation. They have deceived the council. Armored guards surrounded Miller on the platform. Moore moved toward his team. This is a setup, Miller called out, looking to Zerthal and other potentially friendly council members. Earth came in peace. These documents are fakes. Some council members looked uncertain, but none spoke up. Lisa moved with lightning speed, putting herself between Peter and the approaching guards. Peter, run. Get to the ship. She fired her sidearm at the ceiling, causing temporary chaos. Peter bolted for the exit as Lisa fought off the first guards to reach her. Traitors. Spies. Draxar shouted above the commotion. The humans plan to infiltrate our council and steal our resources. Miller tried to reach his team but was wrestled to the ground by Vaxuri guards. From the floor, he saw Lisa overwhelmed by 6 guards. Peter had vanished in the confusion. The human delegation is hereby detained pending investigation of espionage charges, Draxar announced as order was restored. Ambassador Miller will remain in council custody. As Miller was dragged away, he caught a glimpse of Zerthal. The Artaxi would not meet his eyes. In a secure service corridor, Peter Johnson ran for his life. He had one mission now: reach the EA's horizon and warn Earth that their diplomatic mission had just become a hostage situation. Behind him, he heard the heavy footsteps of pursuit and a cold Vaxery voice ordering all ports sealed. The trap had been perfectly laid, and humanity had walked right into it. Miller sat in a small bare cell with his wrists bound by strange energy cuffs that tingled painfully against his skin. He had been there for hours, maybe a day. It was hard to tell with no windows or clock. The door slid open. 2 Vaxery guards entered, followed by Draxar himself. Ambassador Miller, Draxar said, his reptilian face showing no emotion. The council has convened a special tribunal to hear your case. This isn't justice, Miller replied. You planted those documents. This was planned from the start. Draxar's tongue flicked out briefly. Humans developed too quickly. Your kind reached the stars in mere centuries, while other species took millennia. The council has determined you are a threat to galactic stability. Where is my team? Miller demanded. The female warrior is in custody. Your other companion escaped but will be found. Miller felt a small flash of hope. If Peter had evaded capture, there was a chance Earth might learn what happened here. Take me to this tribunal, Miller said, standing tall despite his bonds. I want to face my accusers. The tribunal chamber was smaller than the main council hall, but still impressive. 7 judges, 1 from each major council race, sat on an elevated platform. Below them, Miller stood alone in a force field circle. Draxar acted as prosecutor. The evidence is clear. Human ships have been scanning council-claimed territories. Their transmissions contain military codes. The documents show their intent to establish bases in disputed regions. All lies, Miller countered when allowed to speak. Earth seeks peaceful relations, not conflict. We didn't even know about these disputed regions until yesterday. From the judges' panel, Zerthal spoke. The accused has the right to present evidence in his defense. My evidence was on the EA's horizon, Miller said. But I suspect your forces have already deleted it. A murmur ran through the small crowd of observers. Miller spotted Lisa being held in restraints near the back. Her face was bruised, but her eyes met his with fierce determination. The tribunal will now deliberate, announced the lead judge, a spindly being whose species Miller didn't recognize. The deliberation lasted less than 10 minutes. Miller knew then that the outcome had been decided long before his capture. John Miller of Earth, the lead judge intoned, this tribunal finds you guilty of espionage, conspiracy against the council, and violation of sovereign space. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately as a warning to your species. Gasps came from several observers, including some council members. Even Zerthal looked shocked. This exceeds our law, Zerthal protested. A formal warning to Earthworld. The vote is final. Draxar cut in. 6-1. Guards moved to seize Miller. He didn't resist, knowing it would be futile. You should know, Miller said loudly enough for all to hear, that Earth will not accept this injustice. We came in peace, but we know how to fight. Empty threats from a dead species, Draxar replied. Meanwhile, in a maintenance shaft near the station's communication hub, Peter Johnson worked frantically. He had evaded capture for nearly 30 hours, using air ducts and service corridors to move around the station. Now he was attempting something desperate. He had modified his translator device into a transmitter that could patch into the station's main communication array. If he could broadcast what was happening, any human ships within 50 light-years might pick up the signal. On a small screen, he saw a feed from the tribunal chamber. His blood ran cold as he watched guards drag Miller away. The sentence scrolled across the bottom of the screen in Council standard language. Death by ceremonial burning. No, Peter whispered, working faster on his makeshift transmitter. His hand shook as he connected the final wires. Back in the main council chamber, Miller was brought to a raised platform. A ceremonial fire pit had been prepared in the center. The entire council was present to witness the execution. Let this serve as a message to all who would threaten council unity, Draxor proclaimed. As guards moved Miller toward the flames, he stood straight and proud. Earth will not forget this day, he said clearly. We came as friends, and you answered with treachery. Remember that when humanity responds. The guards forced Miller into the fire pit. His screams echoed through the chamber as flames engulfed him. In the communication hub, Peter activated his transmitter just in time to broadcast the execution to the stars. Tears streamed down his face as he watched his ambassador burn. Then alarms blared. He had been detected. For Earth, Peter whispered as guards burst in. For Miller, on Earth, President Susan Collins stared at the screen in her office, her face pale with shock and rage. The footage of Ambassador Miller's execution had reached Earth 12 hours ago. Since then, the planet had exploded with grief and fury. Is this verified? She asked, her voice tight with controlled emotion. General Gray Howard nodded grimly. Yes, Madam President. Multiple stations picked up the transmission. It appears Peter Johnson managed to broadcast the execution before he was captured. Around the large table sat the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the heads of intelligence agencies and key cabinet members. None spoke as the President rose and walked to the window overlooking Washington, D.C. They burned our ambassador alive, she said quietly. They staged a false trial and executed him as a message. The public is demanding action, said Defense Secretary Bill Evans. Global protests have erupted in every major city. The colonies on Mars and Europa are calling for immediate military response. Collins turned back to face the room. What are our options? Admiral Joe Harris stood up and activated a holographic display above the table. Madam President, following first contact 3 years ago, we quietly began developing contingency plans. Project Guardian was approved by your predecessor. Collins narrowed her eyes. I was never briefed on this. It was classified above top secret, Harris explained. Only those with direct involvement knew the details. The hologram showed military ships unlike any in Earth's publicly known fleet, sleeker, more aggressive in design. We've built ships, Harris continued. Advanced warships with stealth technology and weapons systems derived from studying the limited alien tech we've acquired. They're stationed in a hidden facility in the asteroid belt. Collins looked around the room. How many people knew about this? A few hundred, General Howard admitted. We hoped never to need them. How many ships? 27 combat-ready vessels, Admiral Harris replied, plus support craft. Not enough for extended war, but enough for a decisive first strike. Secretary Evans spoke up. The Vaxiri clearly led this atrocity. Intel suggests other council races were surprised by the execution. We could target just the Vaxiri, make them pay while offering peace to the others. Collins was silent for a long moment. The room waited for her decision. They thought we were weak, she finally said. They thought we would cower after this display of power. She pointed to the frozen image of Miller standing proudly before the flames. They were wrong. She turned to Admiral Harris. Prepare Operation Swift Justice. Target Vaxiri military installations only. I want minimal civilian casualties. Yes, Madam President. And send a message to all council races except the Vaxiri. Make our position clear, stand aside, or be considered enemies of Earth. While Earth prepared for war, on Sententrum Station, Peter Johnson sat in a dark cell similar to the one Miller had occupied. His body ached from interrogation, but a grim satisfaction kept him going. He had succeeded in broadcasting Miller's final moments and his final words. The cell door opened, and Peter squinted at the bright light. Instead of his Vaxiri torturers, A crystalline figure stood there. Zerthal. Human. The Artaxi said quietly, "Come quickly. There is little time." Peter didn't move. "Why should I trust you? I voted against the execution. What happened to your ambassador was wrong." Zerthal's voice trembled slightly. "The Vaxuri have gone too far. Some of us wish to help." "Help how?" "I can get you to your ship. It remains docked but under guard." Peter slowly stood, wincing at his injuries. "And Commander Wright, already freed by my associates. She awaits at your vessel." Minutes later, Peter moved through service corridors following Zerthal. They passed 2 unconscious guards before reaching a maintenance airlock where Lisa Wright waited, still bruised but armed with a stolen weapon. "Johnson," she said with relief. "I thought they'd killed you too." "Nearly did," he replied. "Can we trust this one?" Lisa nodded. "He helped me escape. Says there's a faction opposed to what happened." Zerthal's crystalline skin pulsed with urgent colors. "Your ship's systems have been restored. You must leave immediately before Draxar realizes what has happened." "Why help us?" Peter asked. "The Vaxuri want war. They believe humans are too dangerous to exist in the galaxy. But some of us remember when our own species were newcomers." Zerthal handed Peter a data crystal. "Take this. It contains Council defense codes and Vaxuri fleet positions." "You're committing treason," Lisa observed. "I am preventing genocide," Zerthal replied. "Now go. Warn your people." As the E's horizon broke free from Sententrum Station, alarms blared across the massive structure. Peter and Lisa strapped into the command chairs, pushing the engines to maximum. Setting course for Earth, Lisa said, her hands flying over the controls. "No," Peter replied grimly. "Set course for the nearest Earth outpost. We need to warn them immediately." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Peter closed his eyes, seeing again Miller's face as the flames rose around him. Earth would respond, and the galaxy would tremble. In the darkness of space near the Tau Ceti system, 20 human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel. Their black hulls absorbed rather than reflected light, making them nearly invisible against the void. On the bridge of the lead vessel, the EES Vengeance, Admiral Frank Carter studied the tactical display. "All ships reporting ready, sir," said his communications officer. "Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels." Carter nodded. He was 58 years old, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war on Earth. Now he brought that experience to the stars. "Begin Operation Swift Justice," he ordered. "Primary targets only. Minimal civilian casualties." Across the fleet, officers relayed his commands. The warships separated into 3 attack groups, each heading toward different targets in the Vaxuri mining colony that dominated the system. Carter had studied the intelligence provided by Peter Johnson and Commander Wright after their escape from Sententrum Station. The data crystal from Zerthal had proven invaluable, giving them Vaxuri defense codes and patrol schedules. "Sir, we're detecting 7 Vaxuri warships in orbit around the main mining facility," reported his tactical officer. "As expected," Carter replied. "Weapons free. But remember your targets. Military installations only." The human fleet struck with precision and overwhelming force. The Vaxuri, who had never faced human weapons, were caught completely by surprise. Their ships exploded in silent bursts of light and debris. On the colony below, Vaxuri military bases were hit with pinpoint strikes from orbit. Within 30 minutes, all military targets were destroyed or disabled, with minimal damage to civilian areas. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the colony governor. They're surrendering." Carter allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them civilian infrastructure will be respected if they offer no resistance. All military personnel are to be considered prisoners of war." On a secondary display, Carter watched as landing craft delivered human troops to secure key locations. The Marines moved with disciplined efficiency, encountering little resistance from the shocked Vaxuri forces. "Sir," His executive officer said quietly, "There's a detention facility on the far side of the colony. Intelligence suggests human prisoners may be held there." Carter's expression hardened. "Send in Strike Team Alpha. Priority extraction." Captain Mary Daniels led Strike Team Alpha toward the detention facility. Unlike the main assault forces, her team was equipped with advanced stealth suits that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. 6 guards at the main entrance reported her sergeant through their secure comlink. 2 more patrolling the perimeter. "Take them quietly," Mary ordered. Her team moved like ghosts. In less than 2 minutes, all guards were neutralized without a shot fired. Inside the facility, they found 3 human scientists who had been captured while on a research mission months earlier. Among the prisoners was a surprise. Peter Johnson, who had been transferred here after his recapture following a failed escape attempt from Sententrum. "Captain," Johnson said weakly as they freed him from his cell, "you got my message." "We did," Mary confirmed. "Earth has mobilized. This is just the beginning." Back on the Vengeance, Admiral Carter received the news of the successful rescue with satisfaction. "All objectives completed, sir," his executive officer reported. "Enemy military forces neutralized. Civilian infrastructure intact. All prisoners recovered." Carter nodded. "Send word to Earth. Phase 1 of Operation Swift Justice is complete." As the human fleet secured the Ta-CD system, news of the attack spread quickly across Council space. On Sententrum Station, the Council convened an emergency session. "The humans have attacked a peaceful mining colony." Draxar raged, his scales flushed with anger. Zirathal stood in opposition. "Reports indicate they targeted only military installations, with minimal civilian casualties. This was a precise response to our actions." "Our actions?" Draxar hissed. "You mean justice for their espionage." "I mean the illegal execution of their ambassador," Zirathal countered. Several council members murmured in agreement. The debate was interrupted by a transmission that overrode the chamber's communication systems. President Collins appeared on all screens. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice steady and cold. "You burned our ambassador alive in a mockery of justice. Earth has responded to this act of war. The Vaxuri will face the consequences of their treachery." She paused, her eyes seeming to meet those of each council member. "To the other council races, Earth offers you peace if you remain neutral in this conflict. Ally with the Vaxuri, and you share their fate. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. On the Vengeance, Admiral Carter looked at the stars beyond his viewport. "Prepare for Phase 2, he ordered. The hunt for Vaxuri targets had only begun. 1 month after the Ta-CD strike, war blazed across 3 star systems. Human forces moved with shocking speed and coordination, hitting Vaxuri military targets before vanishing back into the darkness of space. Admiral Carter studied the holographic battle map in the war room of the EAS Vengeance. Red dots showed confirmed Vaxuri positions. Blue markers represented human fleet movements. "The Vaxuri are adapting to our tactics," Carter observed. "They've begun moving civilian ships alongside military vessels, hoping we won't attack." Peter Johnson stood at his side. After his rescue, he had become a crucial advisor on Council tactics and technology. The torture he endured had left him with a slight limp, but his mind remained sharp. "It's a typical Vaxuri strategy," Peter said. "They believe we value life as they do not." Carter nodded grimly. "We'll continue precision strikes. No civilian casualties if we can help it." He turned to his communications officer. "Any word from Captain Daniels?" "The EA's retribution has maintained radio silence for the last 48 hours as planned. They should reach Vaxuri space within 3 days." Carter allowed himself a small smile. Mary Daniels was one of his best officers. Her mission was the most daring yet, a raid on a military research station orbiting the Vaxuri homeworld itself. On Earth, President Collins met with her science advisors in a secure underground facility. The room was filled with Earth's brightest minds, working around the clock to develop new weapons and defenses against Vaxiri technology. The quantum disruptor is ready for field testing, Dr. Laura Bennett explained, gesturing to a complex schematic. It can disable Vaxiri shield systems without harming the ship itself. Collins nodded. And the status of our new fleet? Defense Secretary Evans answered. Production has been accelerated. Mars shipyards are operating at maximum capacity. 20 new warships will be ready within 2 weeks. Not fast enough, Collins said. The Vaxiri are calling for their council allies to join the fight. We need to show strength now. Madam President, said a young aide, entering the room with urgency. We've intercepted Vaxiri communications. They're planning something called Operation Final Purge. Peter Johnson's face appeared on a large screen, transmitting from the Vengeance. I know what that is, he said grimly. During my captivity, I overheard guards discussing it. The Vaxiri have developed bioweapons designed specifically to target human DNA. A chill silence fell over the room. How close are they to deployment? Collins asked. Unknown, Peter replied. But their intent is clear. They aim to make Earth uninhabitable. Collins turned to Dr. Bennett. Accelerate the quantum weapons program. All resources, all personnel. Yes, Madam President. While Earth prepared, Captain Mary Daniels guided the EA's retribution through Vaxiri detection grids. Her ship's stealth systems strained against the intense scans sweeping space around the Vaxiri homeworld. Approaching target, her navigator reported quietly, as if the Vaxiri might hear them through the vacuum of space. The Vaxiri research station hung in orbit, its ring-like structure bristling with communication arrays and defense systems. All teams ready, her first officer confirmed. Strike teams in position. Mary took a deep breath. Begin Operation Sunrise. The retribution decloaked just long enough to launch 12 small attack craft. Each carried a squad of elite soldiers and a specialized tech team. Vaxiri alarms blared too late. The attack craft were already docking at different points around the station. Inside, human forces moved with practiced precision. The Vaxiri, confident in their orbital defenses, had minimal security within the station itself. Captain, came the voice of Surgeon Ben Young over the comm. We've secured the main lab. You need to see this. Mary's team fought their way to the central research hub. What they found made her blood run cold. Storage units lined the walls, each containing missile-shaped devices glowing with sickly green light. Bioweapons, her science officer confirmed. Enough to target every major human settlement. Download all research data, Mary ordered. Then set charges. This station doesn't exist in 1 hour. As her teams worked, Mary accessed a communication terminal. She needed to warn Earth immediately. On Sententrum Station, the Galactic Council remained divided. 3 species had declared neutrality following Earth's warning. The others debated their response. Zerthal addressed the chamber. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They target only military assets, not civilians. Restraint, Draxar hissed. They have destroyed centuries of Vaxiri development. A junior Vaxiri aide approached Draxar, whispering urgently in his ear. The Vaxiri leader's scales paled to a sickly white. What is it? Demanded a council elder. Draxar didn't answer, rushing from the chamber with his delegation. In Earth orbit, Collins received Mary's transmission with grim satisfaction. The Vaxiri were planning genocide, she told her advisors. Now all doubt is removed. She turned to Admiral Harris. Authorize Operation Righteous Fury. Full deployment of all assets. Earth was done testing the waters. The full might of humanity was about to be unleashed. 3 days after the discovery of the bioweapons, a Vaxiri diplomatic vessel approached Earth under a flag of truce. President Collins watched from her office as the alien ship was escorted by 6 human warships, weapons locked on target. They wished to negotiate, Defense Secretary Evans explained. After Captain Daniels destroyed their research station, They realized we could reach their homeworld at will. Collins's expression remained cold. Bring their representative to the lunar base. I won't allow them on Earth after what they planned. 4 hours later, Collins faced a Vaxiri diplomat across a conference table on Moon Base Alpha. Peter Johnson stood at her side as translator and advisor. My government offers cessation of hostilities, the Vaxiri said through a translator device. We will acknowledge human territory and withdraw complaints to the Council. Collins did not immediately respond. She simply placed a data tablet on the table and slid it toward the alien. It showed images of Ambassador Miller's execution, followed by pictures of the bioweapons Captain Daniels had discovered. You burned our diplomat alive, Collins said quietly. Then you plan to exterminate our entire species. The Vaxiri scales shifted color slightly. Regrettable actions in a time of misunderstanding. Peter Johnson's hands clenched into fists, but he maintained his professional demeanor. Here are our terms, Collins continued. Complete surrender of all Vaxiri military forces, war reparations to be paid for 100 years. Draxar and all officials responsible for Ambassador Miller's death to stand trial for war crimes. The Vaxiri diplomat blinked his reptilian eyes slowly. Impossible. My government would never. Then we have nothing to discuss, Collins interrupted, standing. You came hoping we would accept a return to the status quo. That will never happen. As the Vaxiri was escorted out, Peter turned to Collins. They'll mobilize everything now. We're counting on it, Collins replied. In space, near the strategic Sirius wormhole nexus, the largest human fleet ever assembled waited. 100 warships, including 30 new vessels with experimental quantum weapons. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the EEA's Vengeance, now the flagship of the newly formed Human Defense Force. All ships report ready. Admiral, his executive officer announced. Carter nodded. Deploy according to Plan Alpha. Captain Daniels, take your battle group and secure the wormhole. Yes, Admiral. Mary Daniels replied from the EA's Retribution. Her ship led 20 others toward the massive wormhole structure that connected the system to 6 others, including routes to the Vaxiri homeworld. Intelligence reports indicated the Vaxiri had gathered their remaining fleet at the other side of the wormhole, along with ships from 3 allied council races. They planned to launch a massive attack through the wormhole to reach Earth. Enemy force approaching the wormhole from the other side, reported Carter's tactical officer. Perfect, Carter said. Captain Daniels, execute Operation Gateway. The human ships near the wormhole activated special devices designed by Earth scientists. The wormhole's energy signature changed from blue to angry red. When the first Vaxiri ships emerged, they found themselves trapped in a modified gravity field. Unable to maneuver, they were easy targets for human weapons. Quantum disruptors online, Carter ordered. Target their command ships only. Beams of shimmering energy lanced out from the human vessels. When they struck Vaxiri shields, the protective barriers simply vanished. Precise follow-up strikes disabled the ships without destroying them. In less than 20 minutes, the battle was over. The Vaxiri fleet was captured mostly intact, their crews taken prisoner. Admiral, his communications officer called out, we're receiving surrender signals from Vaxiri outposts across 3 systems. Carter allowed himself a small smile. Inform Earth. The path to the Vaxiri homeworld is open. On Earth, Collins addressed the planetary assembly. Representatives from every nation and colony stood in respectful silence. Today marks a turning point, she said, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy. The Vaxiri thought us weak. They thought we would break when they murdered John Miller. Instead, we showed them what humanity truly is. She paused, looking at the image of Ambassador Miller displayed behind her. We are not conquerors. We will not exterminate the Vaxiri as they plan to do to us. We will rebuild the Galactic Council as it should be, based on justice and mutual respect. Peter Johnson watched from the side, thinking of Miller's final words as the flames rose around him. Earth had not forgotten. Earth had responded. And now, The stars themselves would know. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage.